Ishmael, in 2022, how much did you sell your company for?
A little bit over 100 mil. Just a tad bit.
And when you were doing that, how much revenue was the company doing exactly?
108 mil.
Nice. And
in,
so
revenue.
From what I understand, you did that in 6 years?
6.5 years, yeah.
Right? Which is, in your industry, I believe, one of the most insane paces that's ever happened.
I think it's a record, to be honest with you. I've known companies that have sold for more, but it's taking them 20, 30 years to get there.
How did you do it so quickly?
Marketing and sales, bro. What you specialize in. Well, your whole content is marketing and sales, and that's what my heart's. We were just talking about it right now. My heart as an operator, I'm a CMO. Like, I'm a pretty good CEO, and I'm a good sales driver, but like not nowhere near how your sales competence and the way you speak about sales. When you talk about sales, is like you can tell that there's love between you and sales. That's how I talk about marketing. Yeah. So I think it was my gift to the operation was definitely marketing. For the longest 20, 30 years, the contracting world has sucked at marketing. Like, nobody really knows a good, air conditioning or plumbing or roofer. Like, everybody's just been word of mouth or little, direct mail pieces here and there. And everybody's got their guy kind of thing. We kind of blew up in 2017, 2018 when we put up, 290 something billboards in Southern California, and people were just like, what is that? And then people just started noticing.
And I want to circle back to that story, because what I want to do on this podcast is I really want to talk about the entire journey from your come up story to basically selling your company and everything in between. So 0 to 1 million, 1 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to exit. And then ultimately what you're doing next, which is Nuvei, right?
Yep.
But I want to start at the very beginning. And so you were born in Mexico City.
Yep.
And you had a tough upbringing.
I did.
So tell me kind of like, walk me through the whole story behind that, and also how you think that shaped you later as an entrepreneur.
Me and my brothers were born in Mexico. Look, when I talk about my past and when I talk about my upbringing, like I don't want to like sound not like I'm trying to play a victim card or trying to get some kind of pity from you guys. Like, I had a really fucked up upbringing, but that doesn't mean like I was like crying all the time and I was like, oh, poor child kind of thing. Like, it was a tough upbringing, but to us, like, that was normal. Like, I've never had a mom. My mom passed away when I was 2, so. Like, to me, they're like, oh man, poor you've never had a mom. It's like, not really, because I don't know what
you have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah, I have nothing to compare it to. So it's not like I'm like, oh man, I never had a mom. What am I gonna do? It's like, no, I've never had a mom, so I don't know what it is to have. And my dad was in and out of our life too. So like, I've never had both parents in it, so I never had anything to miss with it. So don't think that I'm like here like, oh my God, poor child kind of thing. Dude, I had a badass upbringing. Yes, it was tough, and a lot of things that happened in my journey shaped who I am. But at the end of the day, like, bro, I had badass cousins in Mexico. My aunts kind of shuffled us around trying to like find a place for who could afford to feed us in Mexico. But like, I could still remember me and my brothers were, me and my older brother were in Mexico, and we were like fucking playing soccer. We were, going to school. We never skipped a meal thanks to my aunt and uncle. So it was a tough upbringing. We were there till we were like 5, 6 years old. And then my dad came over here to the United States. He was working at a chrome polishing company, which now me and my older brother own. And he worked there for like 4 or 5 years, right after my mom passed away. Stacked up some money, and then he brought us to the United States, man. We got smuggled in through the U.S. border through San Diego. Back in the day, I don't know if you guys know this, but you could walk in with a birth certificate. They didn't. There was no way of verifying who owned that birth certificate or anything. So it was just two older white people, and me and my brother were in the back of Suburban. They showed them the certificates, and they let us pass through.
And how did you manage? You didn't even know English when
No.
you first went to like school in elementary school.
No, yeah.
How did you even manage to like overcome that?
It was weird, bro. And I still remember that feeling of walking into school, because like the kids would like be talking, and I'm like, am I in the wrong place? Because like I remember being in Mexico and everybody was normal. And everybody was cool, and everybody was like, respectful, and they, and then I walk into the United States, and, we're in like, 3rd, 4th grade, I think we were. And you walk in, and like the teachers are speaking English, and the kids are speaking English, and they're coming up to you, and they're like, trying to play with you or trying to introduce themselves. And you're just like, what am I supposed to do? So I remember that was probably one of the toughest parts of coming into the United States, being so lost in the school system. And then back then it wasn't like, hey, this class is only for Spanish people, and this class, and then the rest is like, everything was just kind of mixed in. So like, we had to learn English right away. I could guarantee you, we probably learned English like where we could understand and kind of communicate. We had a thick accent, obviously. I could probably tell you, like, in 6 to 8 months, we were already communicating with the kids, playing around in the recess, and just doing all that. But yeah, man, it was cool. Most kids in here in where we grew up in the west side of Anaheim, they were just chill kids, man. They were all like us. They were all, half of the school was Hispanic and half of the school was white.
Hey, really quick, I put together a full playbook you can get for free on how to scale 8-figure and multiple 8-figure offers all the way from zero. So this covers everything you need to know to build an 8-figure offer. It's actually from a viral video I did on YouTube covering how to create banger offers based on my experience scaling a $36 million company and several others. So if you want it, link is in the description. We'll send it to your email. Now back to the video. And I know you had a complicated relationship with your dad too, from leaving early and everything. So explain that. And I'm curious, how did that impact you as an entrepreneur later? Because there's a saying that like the father story is always embedded in the son. And that's a very common thing with a lot of like some of the biggest, most successful entrepreneurs that have lived. Elon Musk, he has a whole story like that too. So I'm curious for, to explain your relationship with your dad.
Look, there was a pros and cons to my dad being in and out of our life. I think he was when I was in the midst of things, for sure I was pissed off, and I was like, what the fuck? He always leaves and he always comes back whenever he wants. So like I was pissed at him for like the longest time. But now that I'm an adult and I matured a little bit more, like I look back and like my dad lost his dad and his mom when he was super young too. He was one of like 9 boys and 4 girls. So there was like 13, 14 kids in his family. He was the youngest one. And he got the short end of the stick. Like his brothers and sisters had to raise him. So he never really knew what a mom and dad was. So I think that like looking back at it, it's like I used to be mad at him for coming in and out and being an alcoholic and just not pouring attention to us. But I can't blame him for something that he never was taught. Like nobody ever told him like, hey son, I love you, or hey son, you're doing a good job, or hey man, like keep going, you're a badass, or nobody ever complimented him. So like I always looked at my dad, and when we were growing, he was always quiet, he was super reserved, he was chill. Like he wasn't like out there. He was always happy though. The times that I did see him or that he was in our lives, he was just a happy dude. You know what I'm saying? So I can't blame him. That was the pros of it. The pros of my dad doing that is, dude, I saw my dad bust his ass for 20, 25 years, man. I saw my dad bust his fucking ass every day. When he was around 4 or 5 in the morning, hungover, sick, fevers, throwing up. Like I saw him do that every fucking day, bro. And that's what I think got me my work ethic. Like knowing that, like, there's no excuse. If my dad could wake up at 4 in the morning and go to one of the dirtiest jobs in America, and I don't know if you guys know what chrome polishing is, but these guys walk in just like how we're walking in, and they put on almost like a hazmat suit to be able to polish these rims and chrome these rims. And they walk out and there's freaking grease and powder, chrome powder and copper powder all over their skin, and their fingernails and everything. It just and I saw him do that for forever, bro. So it got me the work ethic that I have now. There's no excuse for me not to wake up and go out there and try to make a living for myself, or try to get a better future if my dad could do it for.
And speaking of that, I think he made you pay rent when you were 16.
Fuck yeah, he did.
And then when you didn't, what happened when you couldn't make the rent?
He was such a blunt dude that like he wasn't sugarcoating anything. Like he told us from day one that we started working, like, hey, $400 are gonna go for rent, and then the rest you guys could keep. Like I'm not gonna be here, busting my ass, and kind of the tough dad scenario. And he made us pay. And look, I always blame him because I was 14, I was like 15, 16 years old when he did that to me. I had been paying rent for 2 years already. So like, to me, it's like you have a 14, 15-year-old paying you rent, like you could cut him a slack, right? But it also taught me that, hey, we had a deal.
Yeah.
We had a deal. The deal was, hey, you're going to work and you're going to go to school full time, and you're going to work full time, and you're going to come and you're going to pay us $400 for you to live in this house, right? To make sure that because we had an okay house at the time already. And we had a deal, and I broke that deal. So for the longest time, I hated him for doing it, because it's like, bro, give me a fucking break. I'm a 15, 16-year-old kid, bro.
Yeah.
Like $400, like I'm going to pay you in a couple weeks. And he's like, nah, man, get the fuck out of here. Like if you don't have my rent by tomorrow, then, you don't have a spot to live in. So it taught me to, hey, when you give your word to somebody, make sure that you come through with it. And if you're not going to come through with it, like there's going to be consequences there. Yeah. You got to be okay with the consequences, because at the end of the day, it's not like he said, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to charge you $400 and just pay me whenever you can. He said, hey, this day, every month at this day, you got to have my rent. And I did for 2.5 years. I had my rent. My older brother paid rent. I think the only one that didn't pay rent was my younger sister, which, you know, she was too young to do. But we all had to pitch in to be able to have a kind of decent living.
And then I think when you left, I think there's a story about you got a fake ID just to work at McDonald's.
Yeah, bro.
That's pretty badass.
Bro, so in Santa Ana, you were able to go and grab a fake ID. Like we're 16, 17 years old. And obviously I need a full-time job. I can't go to school and be a part-time job and be homeless, right? So like I had to get a fake ID. I had to get a fake job permit. I had to, you know, do all these things to be able to work a full-time job just to be able to have enough money to coming in to be able to pay. Because when I moved out of my house, like I was living 6 months at my friend's house, and I was living at another friend's, but they were charging me rent too. So it wasn't like, you know, I was living for free and I was just chilling and having a blast. You know, I had the responsibility. I had to pay rent. So I had to work full time. I had to go to school full time, and I had to grind.
It's wild because most people's experience, my experience of getting a fake ID was to buy booze. Yeah, I think when I read that, I was like, man, this guy got a fake ID just to work at McDonald's.
I had it, bro.
So
that McDonald's job was dope, man, honestly.
Why was it dope?
McDonald's, bro, it was 3 of us, right? So we're like 16, 17 in high school. It's 3 of us, 4 of us were best friends. You know, they had a really good upbringing. You know, they had their parents and everything was good, but they did it more for like just to have money to buy clothes and have nice cars and all that. But it was dope because like from, you know, time we got out of school from 2:15, we got there at 3 p.m. and we worked from like 3 p.m. to like 11, sometimes 12. Damn. Got home, did homework, and did it again over and over. But like at that McDonald's, it's just us 4. Like one was in the kitchen, one was in the front drive-through. I was in the back drive-through, you know, handing drinks and all that. And it's in Yorba Linda, California, one of the most beautiful fucking cities. So like again, perspective. Like most of you guys would be like, what the fuck, 17 years old, you're homeless, you're working a full-time job, poor you, right? I'm like having the time of my fucking life, bro. I'm working with my best friends. There's fucking hot girls coming in. I'm 17, 18 years old. I have money I have money every day. Like I have a badass car, right? Like to me, everything was perspective. Like, so when I tell you guys these stories about my upbringing, it was a fucking tough life. And it was like no kid should ever have to go through that. But like we made the best out of it, man. Yeah. Like, me and my brother always made the best out of it.
Did you have to learn that perspective, or did you just always have
it? Bro,
that?
I just had it, bro. Because like
that's a gift.
To me, it wasn't like I had a choice to be like, oh man, my dad kicked me out. Or man, you know, what am I gonna do now? Like to me, it was like always like trying to figure things out. And that's what I thrive on. Like when somebody gives me an obstacle, it's like, okay, go around it, go through it, go. Like I thrive on fucking just obstacles in life, man. Like to me, when the complexity of an obstacle is what gets me going. So whether it's a business, whether it's life in general, whether it's a personal relationship, like to me, when it gets tough, that's when the best part of me comes out.
So and then that job led to the supply side of the HVAC. So explain that. And you basically started working in a supply shop, which sells the parts to the contractors, right?
So it was like a Friday afternoon, and we're getting ready to get out of work, and I think we had an early shift where everybody was getting off at 6:30 or 7, and we're like, hey, James is throwing a party. We rarely fucking went out because we're always grinding and working, and I'm like, hey, James is throwing a party. We should all go, and we were like, let's go. So I drive down Cerritos Boulevard in the east side of Anaheim, and I see this now hiring sign. It just said now hiring, and back was a big ass warehouse. I'm like, look, man, if I could get a couple bucks more, a buck more than what I'm getting, like, fuck it, I'll go. So I'm just gonna stop by, see what it's about, and then I'm gonna go grab my shirts. And I wanted to buy a shirt and to look fresh for the party. And I walk in, and there's this old man. His name's Richard, and this other guy named John. And he's in the counter, just fucking, these old school, just smoking cigarettes inside of the warehouse kind of dudes, right? And I'm like, hey man, I saw the not hiring sign. I would love to get an opportunity. He's like, oh, where do you work at? I'm like, oh, currently I'm working at McDonald's, and I've worked at a auto supply house where we memorize parts and we put them in bins and we ship them, and it's like, oh, it's the same thing here. So you have experience? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, I'll do anything. And I think back then we were getting paid like, $5-6 an hour.
Nice.
And he's like, yeah, if you want to start, you could start right away. We'll pay you, $1 more than what you're making, and then after that you could move your way up here. And I did, bro. I'm like, fuck yeah, $1, bro? Are you kidding me? $1? That's $40 extra a week. You know what I'm saying? So I was quit right away. Fucking went and worked right there. I worked there from like, I think I was turning 18 to like I was 22, 23 at the supply house. And I saw contractors, hundreds of, if not thousands of contractors go in there, buy equipment, take it to a job, go install for homeowners and collect the payment. And they just kept doing this. And the one thing I noticed when I was working there is like, man, these motherfuckers drive dope ass trucks. These construction dudes are doing good, right? And I've always, I'm a curious guy, so I would always ask him like, hey man, like, what'd you sell that for? Like, hey, how many employees do you have? Or how many jobs are you doing today? Or how much was that truck? 80, 100, $120,000 trucks. And I'm like, God damn, bro, these guys are making money, right? And that's when the curiosity came in, and I just, I started asking a million questions about the trades.
Yeah, and because you've called that like your university, which is where you learned a lot of the things. Yeah. I'm curious what you think about this, because like the online culture right now, which it wasn't this way back in your day, which the online culture right now is everybody should be an entrepreneur, right? So a lot of people they're coming out and they're like, they have no work experience at all. And they're just trying to start a business from scratch, and they have like no specialized knowledge, no work experience. How important do you think it is? I call it like an apprenticeship,
bro,
right?
You gotta
How important it is to actually just get a job in the industry that you want to work for, so you could absorb all of those best practices of the industry.
It's a must, bro. I tell this to everybody. Look, if you guys want to get into the trades, if you guys want to be a plumber, if you guys want to be an electrician, if you guys want to be a roofer, if you guys want to own a contracting business, there's a 4-year apprenticeship that you gotta go through to make sure that you become, that you give yourself a chance to be successful. That doesn't give you a certainty that you're gonna be successful, but at least it gives you a chance to be successful. And this is where most of these online gurus get it wrong. It's like, just go buy a plumbing business, or there's all these boomers that are selling their business. No, there isn't. And you think a 50, 60-year-old boomer is just gonna be like, I've been making $1 million for the last 20 years every year. Like, you think they're just gonna be like, yeah, here's my business, go ahead and take care of it? No, man. Like, there's a pathway to making sure you give yourself a chance to own one of these businesses. What I tell everybody is like, look, you got to go work for a $5 million company. You got to work for a $20 million company. You got to work for a $100 million company. And then the fourth year is when you start planning on what you're going to do with your life on it. But you got to work for all those companies, man, because the 5, the 20, and the $100 million company all do something really, really fucking phenomenal inside the operation.
Yep.
And every single one of them do something good, right? The $5 million guys have amazing culture, their work ethic, they suck at marketing, they suck at sales, they suck at hiring, but the culture in there, it feels like family, right? Yep. The $20 million guy is getting to, build a team and start the marketing, start the sales, and start they're gonna teach you that side of the business. Then obviously the $100 million guy is gonna teach you all the accounting and the back end and the support and the structure and how to really drive a business forward. So I always tell 18, 20-year-old kids that are out there, if you guys are gonna get into the trades, make sure that you go to trade school for a year, work for a $5 million company, work for a $20 million, work for a $100 million company. That's your 4-year apprenticeship. And then after that, you could be like, okay, cool, I'm ready to start my own business.
Yeah, and you know what I did too? So when I started as a salesperson. I had a job, right? I started as a small company, then went and worked for a slightly better company, and then I went and worked for at the time was one of the best, most notable companies in our industry. And so what happened was, a lot of people ask me how I scaled so quickly. I went from like $100,000 a month to $2.5 million a month in 18 months.
That's insane, by the way.
But it's a lot of it, and the answer I always give, which is, it's like a non-answer because it's just like the hard truth, is I had built so many skills through that time, because I wasn't just trying to get good at sales. No. I was trying, what was really valuable is I would, we at the last company especially, we were in an office. So I would ask the CMO and be like, dude, so you're spending $800,000 on ads this month. Like, can you show me how you do that? Like, how do you actually do that? Or I could even see oh, here's how they run payroll. Here's how they do the meetings. Here's how they do this. And so you learn through observation and osmosis. And then I just kind of internalized all of that. And then I basically created my company of what did I like at all these companies? But what were the things that pissed me off that I wanted to change.
Yep.
And I'm curious for you, because we'll get to the start of the company later, but since we're on this topic, what were the things that you took from the companies you worked for? And what were the things that pissed you the fuck off where you're like, this is never going to happen in my company?
The things that I really liked in our operation, one of the dopest things that I liked when we were at even at the wholesale supply house, you know, I saw that he was super frugal. That he made sure that, you know, if you were only working 40 hours, you were making 40 hours. They were profitable. You know, they watched inventory properly. They watched everything good. So that's what I took from him was like, look, in order for you to be a profitable business, yeah, you can't be fucking cheap, but there's a thin line between being cheap and being too fucking, you know, just giving the house away. Right. So what I learned from the 5 years that I was at the distribution center is that like making sure you manage the inventory and making sure you manage labor and making sure you manage that was proper. Then I co-founded a company called Home Comfort USA, which was an air conditioning company in Anaheim, California. And what I learned from there, we went from zero to a little bit over $20 million in revenue in a four-year span. And what I learned from there was the sales drive, bro. Like that guy, you know, I was more of the COO, the back end, like, hey, from the point of sale to the point of collecting the payment. And he was more of the marketing to the sales point. So we complemented each other properly. But I've always known that I was a good, you know, operator on the back end, you know, getting installs done, getting them equipment order, getting them to job site, like I always had a gift for that. But I lacked the front end, which was, hey, how do you make the phones ring? How do you make those phones ring into revenue? And that's what I took from him. He was a fucking sales machine, bro. Every day, you know, he brought in his sales guys and he riled them up and the technicians and like that, you know, that Wolf of Wall Street kind of feel.
Nice.
Like we're most of the, like these new, you know, upcoming companies contracting out, they're losing that part of it, which is to me is one of the dopest parts of the operation. Like I learned that from him. Mm-hmm. He would bring in the sales guys on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He would bring in the technicians every single day, and he would fucking, you know, he would have monsters and he would have donuts and he would have everything ready for them. And, you know, people would walk in and he would be handing out cash. And I'm like, okay, that's what it is. It's the people that he's driving, right? And he would get them riled up and he would put, and I was on group messages with him. So he would be like, hey man, whoever, you know, sells the next X, you know, gets $250 cash, or whoever does this gets $500 cash. And then he had all the technicians. And I just learned that and observed that. I'm like, damn, that's how you drive a business.
Nice.
So when my third operation, you know, my second business, NextGen Air Conditioning, which, you know, I was the founder and CEO of, that's what I took from him. I knew that it doesn't matter how good you're on the back end. If the front's not fixed and the front's not perfected, then nothing else matters. So that was one of the dopest things. And obviously scaling a company from zero to $108 million in a 6.5 year span, you learn that you got to fucking be able to withstand a shit ton of pressure in that amount of time.
What is one thing though that pissed you off about all the experience that you said, dude, when I start NextGen, I'm never fucking doing
shops
this?
The shop at Home Comfort and the shop at Howard Industry, the operation was like super dull, bro. Carpets and drywall was dirty, bathrooms were fucked up, and, you know, computers were old and mismatched fucking screens. And to me, I'm like, bro, like I want to be able to come in here and fucking love working here. I want to be able to come in here and be able to be like, man, this is my shit right here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I took control and I started my first business, which was NextGen, dude, if you ever walked into my operations, we had 7 different operations in Southern California. It felt like you were in Google, bro. Like nice. Glass screen offices, music playing in the background, coffee for everybody, snacks for everybody, fucking walk in and start handing out cash to everybody. Like it felt like people were eager to walk in there. Like people were like, just with the music playing in the background, I had a full-time cleaning crew and all the operations. So everything was immaculate. The bathrooms were private. They're big. They smelled good. Like everything was fucking, like I looked at every single detail in the operation. Vans were brand new vans. That's what I didn't like about the other operations, that they would just buy cheap old vans and they just throw the technicians and put them in houses. I'm like, man, I want the vans to be brand new. I want the vans to have the best racking. I want the vans to have the best tooling. So that was the one thing that I hated from which I had no control. I was just the CEO, right?
Yeah.
But I hated that. And once I built out NextGen, I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make this where everybody wants to come and work. I'm gonna make this where when we're in here grinding, because dude, we're spending 8, 10, 12 hours with these people, right? We're spending 12, 14 hours sometimes grinding with these people, talking, hey, call this customer, hey, make sure this gets done. Hey, like really delegating that operation and making sure it's going forward. So it's like, if I'm going to be in there for 14 hours with all these people, right? Like I want to be happy, bro. Yeah. I want to have a good vibe going on. Hey, Starbucks on me. Grab 80 cans of Starbucks. Bring them on. Let's fucking work an extra couple hours so we can, get this revenue that we're trying to collect, right? Yeah. So that's the one thing I hated, that they didn't have a vision for the employees. To me, because I was an employee for so long, I was like, when I become a CEO, I'm always going to be an employee. I'm always going to be an employee. What do I want the company to do for me? And that's how I've been doing it for, from NextGen to Nuva now. It's like, what can the company do for the employee so the employee could go out there and take care of a consumer? So then in return, we could charge properly and make a profit.
If you ever wanted to get my one-on-one help in terms of scaling your business, then listen up really fast. So we're taking on a few clients where I can personally one-on-one audit their business across marketing, sales, operations, fulfillment, finance, to be able to tell you what your constraint actually is, and ultimately what are the 1 to 3 things you need to do next to be able to scale working entirely one-on-one with me. So if that's interesting, there's a link in the description that'll say Cole one-on-one that you can go book. But essentially, not only will you get my personal advice, but we'll also be opening up our entire playbooks of my $36 million a year company across marketing, sales, operations, fulfillment, finance. So you can basically model the best practices of what we've done right into your business, and it'll include the opportunity to meet in person up at an event with me. So if that's interesting, click the link in the description and now back to the video. So I have 4 purposes of a company in a framework. I explain this to, all of our team when we have team-wide meetings and all this stuff. The first purpose is to obviously deliver for the customers.
Amen.
But the second one is that really to deliver for the personal growth of your team.
Yeah.
And so I essentially want my company to be the one company that they work for, to where maybe they're 35 or they're 55 or whatever it is, but they look back and they're like, man, the time I spent, whether it was 2 years, 4 years, 10 years at that company was the pivotal, is a pivotal point in my career, right? And the reason, that's actually something I took from the last company I worked for, because I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't work for that company. And so I want to create that experience for as many people as I can.
That's our job, though.
Yeah.
That's our job as CEOs. That's our job. That's our duty and responsibility as CEOs, is to make our employees better. Look, I always use examples of my employees. I always tell somebody that I'm hiring direct, if I'm hiring them direct, look, at the worst thing that's going to happen to you when you come and work for me is that, number 1, yes, it's stressful. Number 2, yes, I'm going to make you a better person. Number 3, I'm always going to have you under pressure because I'm trying to get the best version of you. But the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to start off at $150,000 salary. By the time you're done with me, wherever you walk in, you're going to be asking for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 salaries. I promise you, and I guarantee you, you bring up my name in the industry and you say, hey, I was his personal assistant, I was his sales manager, I was his office manager, I was this, I was that, I work with them direct. Anybody you walk into, I promise you, they're going to give you way more than what you're making right here, because that's the type of company that I'm trying to build for everybody.
Dude, it's totally the same with us. So I want to go back to the story. So your first real business you started, you co-founded 50/50 Partnership, Home Comfort USA.
Yep. He fucked me over, but it's cool.
But before that, didn't he recruit you by taking you to like a Lakers game or something?
Yep. So like for years, bro, look, this is one thing that I always look back when I was at home at Howard Industry, just selling equipment and material to these guys. Like I probably got job offers 5 to 10 times a week, bro.
Yeah.
In front of my boss.
That's when you know you're good. What I tell my guys is, if you don't get job offers from our clients,
there's something
you probably suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when people try to brag about it, I'm like, yeah, well, welcome to the job.
Exactly.
This is what it's like to be good.
He would always contractors would always be like, Ish, come on, bro. I'll pay you way more than what Richard's. And Richard's standing next to me. And I'm like, bro, I'm cool right here. Like, these guys treat me good. They pay me good. Da, da, da. And this guy kept recruiting me for like a year and a half. And he finally gave me like $50,000 in cash. And he put me in front row, Lakers seat tickets. And he's like, hey, man, like, I've been trying to start this company. He started for like 2 years, couldn't get it off the ground, had like 4 or 5 employees. And he's like, everybody, all the installers, all the technicians, most of these sales guys, all these guys come in and they're always fucking around with you. You're always, joking around with them, and, they like you. And I'm like, bro, how am I going to leave this 5-6 year, company that I've been here? They pay me $130,000 a year, which back then in the day was like, is equivalent to like $200,000-$300,000, right? And he's like, look, man, trust me, we'll partner off. We'll be 50-50. We'll do this. We'll do that. And, you know, he had his company, Home Comfort, for like 2 years. I came in the picture, and then we went from 0 to 20 mil in the years after that. And then when I try to hit him up for the equity and like, hey, man, like, you know, I brought in 160 employees out of the 180 something we have here. Like, you know, let's make this a legal document. Let's get, you know, oh, it's, you know, we're not doing good. The company's losing money and da-da-da. I'm like, the fuck, you just bought a M7, a BMW 750 Li, and you just got a house in Pelican. Like, how's the company doing bad, right?
Yeah.
And he tried to give me a runaround, bro, and I'm like, look, man, I need my equity. Didn't happen. You know, I was ignorant. I should have got that since day one instead of, you know, after building the empire. And we parted ways. And, you know, I took a week off, kind of chilled at home, trying to figure out what the fuck I was gonna do. And, you know, I had a bunch of offers after I turn on my phone, and I kind of like just sat down and I'm like, dude, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to go and build another empire for somebody else, and then, you know, something happens. So, you know, back in the day, I called it the next generation of air conditioning and heating, which was way too long. And, you know, I've kind of like pondered on that name forever. And one day I was at Home Depot buying like equipment material for the guys, and I saw a piece of drywall, and it said NextGen drywall. And my company name was called the NextGen Air Conditioning, the next generation of air conditioning. And it was way too long, and I just couldn't come up with a better name. And when I saw that piece of drywall and it said, you know, NextGen drywall, I'm like, NextGen Air Conditioning.
There you go.
So that's where I got the name from. And, you know.
And do you think you founded that company to get revenge?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Do you think that's good fuel?
100%. 100%.
Why is that?
Bro. Because look, when he fucked me over on that, and I told him, I'm like, bro, I'm not here to mess with you. I'm not here to take something that I didn't earn. Like, you know, the things that I've had to do for us to get it to this point. You know, all the installers I had to bring. You know, all the technicians I had to bring. Like, you know, everything that we had to do to get it to this point. And he, in his mind, he thought that he built everything because he was always the face of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, cool. You know, I'll start my own. Luckily, I didn't have any non-compete because we didn't have any paperwork or anything done. So I was like, you know what, cool, whatever. I started NextGen Air Conditioning, and one by one, I started plucking the feathers, bro. Yep. I started plucking feathers all day long. I started installers, technicians, sales guys, just fucking one by one. I started dismantling his whole team. You know, he went from $23 million in revenue at his peak, and, you know, NextGen started growing like this. You know, 6.5 years later, he was doing like a little bit under $8 million.
It's crazy he didn't realize that was going to happen. Because I mean, I could have told you that without even knowing the story.
I think in his mind, this becomes an ego thing, right? I think in his mind, he really thought that he built that company by himself, right? And we know that we don't do this shit by ourselves, bro. Mm-hmm. There's always a team of people that help us out, right? So when you hear like, I built NextGen, what I really meant to say is we built NextGen. We built Home Comfort. We built Nuve. We built, you know, these enterprise level companies. Like, it wasn't not just me. Yeah, I'm the forefront, and yeah, I'm taking the risk. Yeah, I'm putting up the capital, and yeah, I'm doing all that. But at the end of the day, there's 4, 5, 6, 10 people behind me that are actually driving the business forward. So in his mind, he was so egotistic, and obviously he was, you know, a high sales driver. I'm the best fucking sales guy in the world kind of guy. And, you know, in his mind, he was so egotistic that he's like, bro, you didn't do shit. What are you talking about? You're just my COO, or you're just my. It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah. So, you know, the last job I was at, we kind of got in a little fight, and we're cool now. We're actually good friends. But he told me, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be moving on. And he was like, you know, you're never going to make more than you made here in your life.
Bro.
And I was like,
don't say that.
I was like, thank you. Well, thanks. I mean, at the time I was like, fuck you. But I look back and I'm like,
don't say
thanks.
that.
Because I probably used that one thing as my fuel. I mean, there's multiple drivers, but that was a big one until about probably 10 to 15 million a year. Yep. You know, just trying. I mean, and it's part of the reason you go so fast.
Yep.
Is because like you just want to punch.
Somebody has to piss you off.
You want to punch somebody in the face with your revenue.
Yeah, I couldn't wait, bro, to see him at conferences, because in the trades, there's probably like 4 or 5 conferences a year that happen where everybody comes together, and you see the 50, the 100, the 20, the $30 million guys all walking around, right? And everybody kind of knows those conferences already. And, you know, we all used to put, I'm like, I can't fucking wait to grow my company and walk into the same room and him be the small guy. and him be looking up to me and being like, what the fuck did I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't wait. And that happened like in 2000 and I think 22-ish, 21-ish, right before I sold the company, 2021, 2020, around there. There was a conference in Las Vegas. I think it was like a Lennox show. And I wasn't a Lennox dealer, but you know, obviously people knew my name and we were blowing up quickly. And I walked into the room and there's all these Lennox guys there, probably like a couple hundred of these guys, you know, old school white dudes, and, you know, all CEOs of 10, 20, $30 million companies. And I walked in there and everybody got up and came back to, you know, hey, and he was in the corner just looking at me like, the fuck, like,
yeah.
You know
How'd that feel?
It felt good, man. Honestly, it felt good. I'm like,
even after all of that time, it still felt good.
Oh, bro, I've been waiting for that moment. In the corner of my eye, I was just saying like, you fucking piece of shit. Why'd you do that to me? Like, we could have built this together. But retrospect, if I would have stayed, if he would have gave me my 50%, then I would have grown that company to 100 plus mil, sold it, and then we would split the pie, right? Yeah. Luckily, you know,
it worked out.
He did what he did, and we did it good.
Do you think at some point though the anger and the revenge in terms of fuel runs out?
Yeah.
You know, or can you operate with a chip on your shoulder forever?
Else.
So what's been the something else as you've grown? That's not the driver anymore. What do you think it shifts to?
I think it's just the pressure that I put on myself in general. In my eyes, I'll never be good enough for anything, right? Even when we sold the original company to the Apex Group, Home Comfort, like that was cool. Even when we sold NextGen to the Wrench Group, like, and I saw the wire come in, and you know, and to me, like, I always feel like I leave things undone and that I could have done better. Mm-hmm. And that's been the story of my life, bro. The pressure that I put on myself is immense. The pressure that I try to, you know, growing these operations, or when I'm taking on a new project, or when I'm taking on a partner, whatever it is, the amount of pressure that I put on myself is, you know, it's pretty harsh, honestly. So it's not, I think it's stopped being the money, it's stopped being him, it's stopped being a certain, you know, chip on my shoulder kind of thing. And now it's more like, I want to prove myself why I can't be in the Bezos, why I can't be in the Musk, why I can't be in that same realm as them. Yeah. Right? It's not no more. Why can't I be in the Ken Stars and the Ken Goodridges and the you know, in the general contracting population? Like, why can't I fight in the public sector? Why can't a Mexican American come into the United States as an immigrant, go up and build a, you know, multi-billion-dollar empire and be up there talking with those dudes? Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to prove that to myself. I'm not trying to prove that to nobody else. And every day I wake up, I'm like, it's just one more day to get into that step. I want to be up there, bro. Yeah. I want to be up there. I want my flag to be up there. I'm super prideful of being Mexican American. Obviously, I love my country. I have it tatted all over my body. It's not just one country. This is one of the misconceptions that people have. Just because I rock my Mexico hat all the time, it's Mexican American tatted on me. It's Mexican American flags tatted on me everywhere, from the back of my back and my chest. I have the American eagle tatted on my stomach, right? Like, everything that I've done has been Mexican American, but I want to see the flag up there too. You know, the top 10 billionaires, most wealthiest people in the whole universe are all American, you know, or Caucasians or American people. Like, why can't there be one of us up there? Why can't there be a brown guy up there? You know what I'm saying?
I love that, man. So let's talk about the absurd scaling timeline. So I think it was 4 months to 1.2, yep. 9.8 in the first year, yep. 18 in year 2, 24 year 3, 32 year 4. Yep. COVID doubles to 60, yep. 60 to 100 exits. Yep. So walk me through the first million. I think it was in the garage.
Yeah, man. Again, goes back to the hunger that I had to proving him wrong. And look, I wasn't even thinking revenue back then, bro. I didn't even give a fuck about revenue, to be honest with you, because I was so ignorant. I didn't know what gross profit was. We didn't have a P&L. We didn't have QuickBooks. We didn't have anything. Yeah. We had a Google Sheets, and we were dispatching technicians and installers and sales guys from it. Yeah. And we were in a garage thinking, you know what I was thinking? How could I take that installer from him? How could I take that sales guy from him? Oh, I hired him. Oh, I hired her. Oh, I hired. So to me, it was more of a chess game. To me, it was more of a chess game. How could I grab those pieces and put them in front of me? So like, dude, we blew up on at NextGen once we had a shop and we were able to advertise. Like, I went all in on the marketing side of it. Mm-hmm. I went all in on it. I didn't like every single penny that came in as profit or revenue, right? I started maximizing credit lines with vendors. I started opening up credit cards. I started like really leveraging the debt and also the profit of the business to be able to dump everything back into the marketing, back into getting more vans, back into hiring more people. So it was an insane growth. growth, bro. $9.8 million in your first year pre-COVID in 2017, 2018 is equivalent to, you know, $20-30 million in your first year right now. And in the home service industry, it's not like you just press a button and you created a SaaS a software and it's selling by itself. Like, you got to deal with technicians, installers, sales reps, CSRs, in-house support, accountants. Like you got to deal with all those people. On top of that, your marketing. On top of that, your consumer. Like, you got to deal with all that in as an everyday CEO. So it was stressful, man. It was stressful. I lived at NextGen for the first 5 years of the operation. And by live there, I literally, you know, got there at 5 a.m. and I didn't leave till like 9-10 p.m. Ate once or twice. I used to smoke cigarettes, which I fucking love. I haven't smoked in 4 years. You know, I've been sober for about 9 years from alcohol and from cigarettes about 4 years, but I am going to go back to cigarettes. But I used to.
You're going to go back to cigarettes?
Oh, I love cigarettes, man.
Why not like a vape?
Homie. I'm old school. I'm going to wait till I get to $1 billion net worth.
And then you smoke
And then I'm going to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah. You ever heard that thing? Rory Sutherland says this. He's like, if you're it's just kind of like the coolness of cigarettes. And they've done a great job branding this.
Yep.
But if you're like staring aimlessly out of a window, they might think you're crazy. If you're staring aimlessly out of a window and holding a cigarette, you look like a philosopher. Yeah.
You know what goes back to like, what keeps driving you, bro? And look, as dumb as this sounds, I am looking forward to, like, I already envision myself in Mexico with my family, you know, throwing a huge party in Cabo, just in a yacht, all of us just celebrating, you know, our $1 billion exit or 10 billion, whatever God lets us get to. And I already envision myself smoking that cigarette with a cup of coffee at 6 a.m. by myself in that yacht, just praying to the Lord. Yeah. I already envision myself. And that small thing of me chasing that taste of the cigarette is getting me to keep going every single day. It's the stupidest things that drive me.
That is a real, I understand why that's a driver though. Because it's a visceral feeling you're attaching to that moment.
Bro, I could.
Yeah. And I get it with the nicotine coffee combo is one of the best, right when you wake up in the morning is one of the best feelings.
Especially when it's raining. So especially when it's cold.
This is a random story, but I was on vacation with 3 of my buddies. They thought I was nuts about this, but I woke up at 6 a.m. in the Bahamas. You know how they have those like islands, like Johnny Depp lives on one of them or whatever. I forget what they call that, where it's like the blue, the ocean's just like super blue. And I got up in the morning, I took a shot of tequila and was smoking a cigar, drinking coffee. And I'm not even kidding. This is a side quest when I had this medical business. I wrote the whole marketing promotion front to back on that yacht. Yeah. And I think they're still running that. I'm no longer with the company, but they're still running that. That's had to have generated 30 mil for them. And it came off of me shirtless on a yacht at 6 a.m. smoking a cig, drinking tequila.
You know what it is that maybe it's different for you, but you know what it is that when you're at that moment in life when you've envisioned it so long and you finally do it, there's so much peace that like grows into your body, and that euphoria of like you're almost not alive kind of thing, that just the flow of ideas keep coming in, and that's when you come up with dope shit like that.
I know. Yeah. It was so funny because I looked like such a degenerate. And my buddy who's also really successful, he said something along the lines, he's like, dude, looking at you right now is just the pinnacle of high performance. I was like, whatever. Amen. You know, it is what it is. So I think you had this framework that 0 to 10 million is pure sales aggression, 10 to 20 is marketing consistency during the slow seasons, because that's something in the cooling industry. And then 20 to 40 plus is perfecting the details. You still agree with that?
100%.
So tell me about the sales aggression. And specifically, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but like, why in your industry is sales so taboo? And like some guys just don't want to touch it with a 10-foot
because
pole.
The old school mentality of like the old school contractors that were in our industry weren't sales drivers. They weren't, they 94% of contractors only get to the $2 million range or below. So they're so comfortable where they're at. They're doing $2 million of revenue. They're netting $400,000 or $500,000 a year. They're comfortable. They're not looking to be sales driven, right? And to them, talking about sales, right? And this has been the idea behind our contracting, or the all the things that the contractors have stood for before us, is that you don't need to sell. We're just here to help people. And it's like, well, are you really helping people by, not replacing that 15-year-old unit just because you could change a $20, $30 part on it? Or are you really helping people by educating them on how they could, choose these high efficiency units that can save them energy. So to them, they can't see that concept of like, well, I'm just going to fix it because there's nothing wrong with it. We came from a generation from why fix it if it's not broken, right? That's been the whole contracting world up to this point.
Yeah.
Now it's like people like myself, people like the Tommies, people like that are coming into our industry. They're not okay with why fix it if it's not broken. They're more of like, hey, why not educate the customer and let them choose?
Yeah.
Why are you shopping for the customer, right? So I think that's the shift in the industry that we're in right now. That we're in.
I always say you want to sell people not on the product, but on the way of thinking that leads to them buying the product that's the right way for them.
Bro, you're a beast, bro.
You just got to have that one-liner, man.
You're a beast,
I've condensed it down into well, this is what I do. So, but yeah, because once they have, like in your case, once the customer truly understands what's actually, because, most customers,
they don't.
99.99.
They don't know.
I don't even know what's going on with my cooling unit. I have no idea. You can tell me anything.
Nor do you care until it breaks down.
But you got to tell me, hey, here's kind of the health of the system. Here's the parts that are straining the system that could lead to problems down the line. Here's essentially what you could do now. If you don't do anything, you might not experience anything tomorrow, but here's what could happen down the line. What do you want to do?
There you go.
Right?
That should be the framework that we're using now.
Maybe I should sell somebody a cooling unit.
Bro, you'll kill it in sales here in air conditioning.
So talk me through the marketing, right?
Yep.
And I know you have the billboard story.
Yep.
A lot of people think billboards don't work. So I want to know, 10 to 20 was really getting the marketing down. That was one thing you brought to the industry.
Yep.
At scale, what were you doing for marketing? What were you spending percentage-wise on each channels and dollar-wise on each channels? Yep. Tell me about the billboards, all that stuff.
So look, we went from back when we started Home Comfort and into the NextGen story. Everything was radio, TV, print, newspapers. There was little to no Google. There was little to no Yelp. There was little to no social media. Definitely no social media. And I saw the transition to go from the paper and the radio and the traditional media into the digital era, right? And I was in the midst of the transition to it. So when I came in and I brought NextGen into the industry, I started with the print, I started with the traditional, but I slowly saw the KPIs died off on it, knowing that we were investing heavily into it. And this new thing came about, called Google and Yelp, and social media was just popping up, and I started really shifting my marketing from there into the digital era, and that's when I saw the huge spike on it. Well, we got to a certain point where we were spending so much on Google, so much on Yelp, and we were doing the traditional, little to no traditional media, that there had to be a different way for me to attract the customer in the masses. And I'm not talking about tens of thousands. I was talking about millions of people. I wanted people to know our brand from San Diego all the way to Los Angeles down to Palm Springs area, right? And the only thing that I could think of that, like I said, I'm a marketer at heart, I'm a CMO at heart. The only thing that I could think of is, look, these people are stuck in traffic for 2 fucking hours, 3 hours every single day in California. Every single day, people are stuck in traffic for 2 to 3 hours a day. And I would always look around, and there was always Coca-Cola and lawyers and Budweiser and Nike and Apple and all these badass brands in it. And I'm like, well, why hasn't a contractor put their name up there? These people that are driving it every day are our customers every day. So why haven't we done it? And I took a huge risk in 2019, I think. I took a huge risk. This billboard company came up to me and they're like, hey, would you like to put some billboards? I got your direct mail piece and I've seen some of your ads on TV and radio. How about we enhance your marketing with some billboards? And I was like, look, if I'm not the type of guy that's just going to put one billboard up or 10 billboards and be like, okay, I did it. Like, why don't you come back and give me a really good offer? I want to put up like 100 or 200 billboards. And they're like, do you know how much that's going to cost? And I'm like, no, I'm assuming it's going to be a lot. So they came back and, I think they started with like 50 billboards. They wanted like a little bit over 100,000. They explained to me how the billboard game worked based on visibility, based on traffic, based on eyeballs and all that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Hey, what happens if I buy like 250 billboards or something? They're like, well, first we got to look at the inventory, make sure it's even available, right? So they didn't have enough inventory. So I went to like 2 or 3 different billboard companies and I told them, hey man, like I want to do a huge billboard campaign, but I want to drop it all at once. And I want the whole fucking Southern California to know who we are. And at the time I was doing good. We were going from 30 $30+ million in revenue. I had adjusted some of the pricing. We're making money. I have a couple $1 million in the bank account. Things are flowing properly. I'm educating myself on the financials. Like, I'm really like starting to be an operator, right? For the first 3 years, I was a fucking hustler. And I really started educating myself to become a business entrepreneur or an operator. And so we land a deal, and they come back and they're like, hey, look, we have a little bit over 250 billboards for you, and we could, get them done in the next 4 weeks if you sign a contract. And they wanted like almost $400,000 or $500,000 for it. I grinded them down. Part of being a good operator is also being an amazing negotiator. I grinded them down, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, let's do it. Pulled the trigger on it, and it just fucking, from one day to another, bro, the phones lit up. And it wasn't, what surprised me the most is that it wasn't just homeowners calling saying, hey, I just saw your billboard, my toilet's clogged, or I just saw your billboard, my air conditioning is not working. What surprised me the most is that fucking just employees from every fucking company, bro. Every major company in Southern California, if you were doing air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, we just had fucking people just flooding our shops every day and just wanting to work for us. Right. And that was the most important thing. That was the most important pivot in the operation, because you could make the phones ring, but if you don't have the people to come in and fulfill the demand, then you're fucked either way. Right. Yeah. So it made the phones ring. It made us our marketing spike up, but then it got us the top players and the employers. Imagine these technicians are driving from house to house, doing tune-ups and installing air conditioning or installing toilets, going from house to house, and they're in traffic 2-3 hours of the day. And they're hitting my billboards every 5 minutes. And they're like, who the fuck is this company? Mm-hmm. Right? So we had the top players come and apply at our shop. Me being a shark, looking at all these people come in, I'm like, I got to get in there and I got to grab the top people. So I started interviewing people. I started fucking, nope, you start today, here's $10,000. You start today, here's $5,000. And we started just, really calibrating the operation into what it molded to.
What I like is the violent effort to where you didn't do 10 billboards. You're like me in a lot of ways. It's like, if we're gonna eat shit, we don't nibble. No, bro. And so you, instead of just a test, you're like, no, let's just buy them all,
dude. And that could have
that'll be the test.
That could have bankrupted us too. Looking back at it, like me thinking back, like that was a 6-month commitment that they wanted from us. That was a 6-month commitment that they wanted from us. So 6-month commitment for $300,000-$400,000, bro. Like, that's a lot of money. And if it didn't work, I'm fucked. Yeah. It's not like this billboard company's gonna be like, well, yeah, let me just take them down. They got to get a new company to guide them. They got to put, new creative up there. Like, it could take time. So when I did the 6-month deal, I think it was close to like $380,000 a month that I was spending just on billboards, not including the, $800, $900 that I was doing on Google, $250 on Yelp. I was doing traditional media, which was like newspapers, direct mail, Velpacks, all that. I was spending like $100, $150,000 there. Like, total, we were spending about, 1.4, 1.5 mil a month in marketing on it. But that could have like really gone sideways for me, because if I would have put up all those billboards and nothing would have happened, that bill's still coming in for the next 6 months. So luckily it did. We went from, doing $2 million, $1.5 million to $2 million a month to like $3.5, $4 million a month, $5 million, and it just started going from there.
Hey, if the way you sell your product or service is through phone sales, you need to stop using booking systems like OneSub, Calendly, iClose, and other booking systems that aren't designed specifically for a phone sales approach or a phone sales team. So we at Saleskick just launched a new calendar and booking system that'll decrease your cost per book call because it's conversion rate optimized specifically for call funnels, whereas most other calendar systems are meant for corporate all-purpose booking, and it'll increase your show rate. So we've had clients see 30 to 100% increases in their show rate because our calendar system is specifically designed for call funnels and other funnels that are high volume sales call booking funnels. And the software does so much more. It's really the only product designed specifically for sales teams with inbound booking systems. So if you're interested, go to saleskick.com, check it out. Now back to the video. Yeah, and the thing about branding, which I would categorize billboards under branding,
100%,
is, that revenue came in because you took such violent effort. You knew it was from that.
Yep.
But there's no way to really directly attribute it. Like, some of it's probably attributed to your Google.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
And it reminds me, like, content is really the same thing because it's kind of like branding. So we went super hard on content this year. And I've been like pissed about it. Well, I was pissed about it for like the first 3 months because I was like, where's the fucking like direct attribution revenue? But then, this month, or this past month especially, we just had like a banger month. And I know even though I can't attribute it, I know for a fact it's because we went like 10 times harder on the content. And so I think like what you do really well is you look at the marketing as like an entire ecosystem, because they might see a print ad, they see a billboard, they see another billboard, and then they maybe see a Facebook ad or a Google ad, and then that's what gets them, you know, because even if it's subconscious, you know, because it's like the impression type thing that actually happens.
What most of these contractors do, Ronco, is that they kind of nibble on marketing because they're not confident enough, and they don't have the balls to actually be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to commit myself to this magazine. This magazine, you know, does 150,000 homes. I'm going to do, instead of doing the whole 150,000, they just go, oh, well, can I just get this little zip code here? And it does 5,000 magazines, and they get 10 calls, and they're like, oh, this shit doesn't work. 5,000 magazine, I only got 10 calls, and it's like,
it's not even statistically significant.
It's like, bro, like why are you even spending money on 5,000 drops? Like, if you're gonna dump money into marketing, you gotta make sure it's a long-term game, but you gotta make sure you got balls out on it. And that's what we've done. Like, another example, most of these contractors will spend $5,000-$10,000 on Google, and they're like, well, my phones aren't ringing. It's like, the fuck do you expect for $5,000-$10,000 a month? Yeah. Like, your customer acquisition is $600 to $800 on Google. Like, what would you expect, that you were going to get 10,000 customers and people are just going to be flooding the gates? No, it's like one of the things that contractors are doing wrong. They're delusional, number one. And number two, they don't go all in on the marketing. They kind of just try it for a little bit. And if it works, cool. And if it doesn't, they pull back and they go back to their word of mouth bullshit. And then they're stuck below $2 million wondering why they're not growing. Yeah. Like, it's an easy operational. You know, it's a complex operation, but it's an easy ecosystem. It's marketing, sales, and customer fulfillment.
Well, and here's how I like to think about it. This is how you could actually tell the contractors to do it. So in our industry, like $100 a day is what people like to test. You know, they're really on like $100 a day. So that's $3,000 a month. Well, here's the thing. To get enough data to even figure, because you could have 10 leads come in, you close 0, the next 10 you close 4. Right? Okay, it worked. Right? But if you stop it at 10, you didn't know. So essentially, you have to, basically you're saving money on time, or you're paying for speed.
That's it.
So if I'm spending $3,000 a month, it might take me 2 months to figure out if it's going to work. I'm just going to drop it in a week. Right. And then if it doesn't work, I can move on to the next thing. You know? Okay, moving on. So the next level, let's say 30 to 100, was, you were saying you had to really shift from being a hustler to a leader. Yeah. Right? What were the hardest shifts you had to make, the biggest learning lessons that you needed to make to actually run your business like a real business?
So from going from 25, 30 mil to that hyper scale of getting to 60 to 100 mil is the toughest part. Personally, you have to be okay giving up control. Yeah. These fuckers are like so anal about like, oh, no, I gotta know what the customer's saying, what this, and I gotta know what the fucking, like, they gotta know, and they gotta control everything, right? And that's where most contractors get handicapped. The 25 mil plus contractors have to be humble enough to know that there's people out there way better than them. Way better than them, because what's going to take you from 25, 50 mil plus is an executive team, right? Yeah. The $1 to $10 million is you hustling, you fucking on your sales guys, you on your technicians every day, putting out bounties, putting out cash, giving out this, giving out that, you know, making sure the phones are ringing. That's what gets you to 10 mil. The 10 to $25 million is, you know, grabbing a sales team, grabbing a tech team, and putting a couple controls in there to be able to produce the profit. And then the 25 to plus $1 million companies, you got to fucking build an executive team that all have the same common goal, but and this is where most people get it fucked up. They have the common goal, but everybody has to get compensated well enough where they're gonna pour in, you know, their heart, their time, their energy, just as much as you do. If they see you put in 14 hours a day, they're part of the executive team, they better be putting 14, 15 hours a day. And they better be, you know, on text messages, on calls, late super at night. They got to pour that blood, sweat, and tears into your operation from 25 mil plus, because if not, you're going to be stuck at 25, 30 mil. I promise you, it's building that 3-tiered management team, right? To be able to drive that business forward. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck below 25 million. You're never going to get there.
Yeah. And you know, you were talking about micromanaging. Yeah. So when you micromanage somebody, you rob them of their autonomy. Of course, bro. Right? Of course. You know what? There's 3, But there's 3 main drivers of internal motivation,
okay.
right? Which is what we want. We don't want to like be whipping people to be able to, we want people to be internally motivated.
Yep.
There's autonomy, competence, like they're feeling like they're getting better at a skill and growing. And then there's community, which is a lot of what you talked about with culture, right? So inadvertently, like these are heavily studied, but you're hitting these no matter what. But when you micromanage, you rob them of their autonomy. And basically you rob them of like, they don't have the internal motivation because they don't feel like they're responsible for the outcome. And especially if they're
fucking drivers, bro. Yeah. Especially if they're drivers, especially if they're, self-sufficient people, and you have a manager, breathing down their neck, they're going to be like, I don't want to do this. This isn't what I enjoy. Mm-hmm. Like people that are going to take you from 25, 50 to $100 million plus, bro, you're asking them what you need to do. Mm-hmm. Like you never, like when we were building NextGen, the roles flipped on me, and that was the part of the toughest psychological thing that I had to be okay with myself. From 0 to 25, I was hiring, I was doing this, I was driving, I was telling people what to do. The roles flip after 25. You got to be okay with you humbling yourself. I was going up to my CRO, my sales executive. I'm like, hey man, what do you guys need from me so we could close more deals? I was going to my COO is like, hey man, what do you guys need for me to help you guys drive more installs? Or hey, what do you guys need for more leads? Like I'm the one opening up myself to what do you need from me instead of for the first 20, 25, 30 mil. I'm like, no, you got to do this, and you got to make sure that they do this, and you got to make sure that there's calls on here. And like, I'm dictating everything. That what flips around on the 25 mil plus companies is you humbling yourself to being like, hey man, like, what do you guys need me to do? Because I'm feeling useless. If you're feeling useless past 25, past 50, past 100, you're doing your job. Mm-hmm. Get away, get out of the way. Yeah. That's what you need to do.
It's how can I support you?
How can I support you, bro? How can I make you more money? How can I make you better? Like, what do you guys need from me? I walk into Nuve, ask Juju. I walk into Nuve, hey Juju, what do you need me to do today? That's my content creator. I'm asking him what he needs me to do. Hey, Kanani, what do you guys need me to do today? Oh, Ish, I need you to talk to the sales. Hey, marketing, what you like? I'm walking in, and this is a $140 million enterprise company we just built. I'm walking in saying, what do you guys need me to do? Not the other way around. This is where most CEOs get it wrong. Mm-hmm. They think they want to be the big man walking in the room and saying, I'm the CEO, I'm the boss. You guys listen to me. I'm like, I'm cool. I don't want to be the CEO, man. Yeah. The CMO is where it's at. Well, those guys are having fun.
One of the best experiences you could have in your company is when actually the growth doesn't totally depend on you.
Amen.
And somebody else can drive it for you. It feels great. You're like, okay, let me just... You're driving. Let me prep the company to make sure we can fulfill. So I want to talk about, I think it was November 2019. You're doing 32 mil. You had this experience where it was like, I'm doing all this revenue, but there's like $800 in the payroll account. Yeah, bro. Right? What happened what led there and what exactly happened?
You know what? What happened is that the hustler died and the businessman was alive, was born. Mm-hmm. That's what happened. The big man trying to tell everybody what to do died, and the humble Ishmael came out and said, hey man, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, can anybody help? And I started reaching out to people that were doing 40, 50 mil, that were running profitable businesses. And I started, before everybody was reaching out to me because I'm the one pumping my chest online and, growing these businesses. But, 2019, I'm like sitting there, I'm like, I'm doing a fucking $32 million in revenue, but I don't see where the money's at, right? They're like, I'm calling vendors telling them, hey, can you hold on this payment? I'll get you guys another payment next week. I got to make payroll this week. Or, hey, I got to pay down this credit card to be able to, advertise her. Like, I'm like, stealing from Peter to fucking pay Paul and doing all this shit. And I'm like, there has to be a better way. There, maybe I tapped myself. So the hustler died in November, and the entrepreneur and the businessman was born. And this guy named Tom came in my operation, and he educated me on financials, bro, in the accounting and the back end. And he asked me, he's like, hey man, you're $32 million. Where's all your team at? Where's your accounting team? And I'm like, who, Beatrice? Who, Beatrice? Beatrice is a bookkeeper.
She's over there.
Beatrice is a low-level bookkeeper getting paid $25 an hour, and she's running a $32 million empire. She's trying to figure out what the fuck she's doing, and she's always coming up to me, and I'm just like, just we're good.
Yeah.
And he had to come in and really educate myself on the financial, and I hired a financial controller, hired an AP and AR. I started structuring my accounting team, and back then I would be like, fuck no, those people cost way too much money.
Yeah.
Now looking back, it's like, dude, those people are fucking just as important as the technician, just as important as the sales guy, just as important as the installers, just as important as the girl picking up the phone, answering the phone call to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They're just as important as that. And because I didn't know that side of the operation, it was hurting me. Luckily, we were such a high level sales driven organization that it was just a couple of tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
Raise the price here, cut here, adjust here, add here, and it was like boom, the fucking money started flooding in again. That's when I understood what the power of a conversation or the power of being humble could do.
Well, and the biggest thing that I've found that helps to scale through 8 figures is you have to have good data.
Yes,
because the initial phase you can use that marketing and sales aggression, right? But after that, it becomes pinpointing what is the constraint, what is the one thing you can fix that ultimately could lead you 20% or 30% growth or double the company or whatever. How you don't know what that is if you don't have your numbers correctly, right?
The smart people.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know, okay, here's what my gross margin is. Maybe I can negotiate this better to get better product costs. Okay, these techs aren't doing well. These techs aren't doing
them
well.
properly.
There's comp too, all of that stuff. And you said even at this time, you were like joking, you didn't even know what like a P&L was.
No, bro.
That's like, wild.
He comes up to me and he's like, hey, show me your balance sheet and your P&L. And I want to see where your paint's at if you're saying that there's no cash flow. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean a P&L? And he's like, you don't have a profit and loss statement-ish? And I'm like, I think Beatrice does.
Yeah.
And she's like, you've never seen it? I'm like, bro, the numbers tell me everything. He's like, yeah, but you also got to pay attention to this, this, and this. And I'm like, now it makes sense, right? Now it makes sense.
You're like the balance what? So, okay. So
who's balancing what here?
Yeah. So now you're at 100. Okay. Was selling the goal all along?
No.
Or, how did you what flipped in your brain to where you're like, okay, I think an exit might make sense?
So we heard a company in like Sacramento had sold and they were doing like 60 million revenue, right? And I was doing 60 around there, but I was on my way to 100. And we heard a company had sold for, 80 plus mil. And then I heard another company called Service Champion selling for like plus 200 mil. And I'm like, what are you, like, I don't think they realize that we're just plumbers here. We're air conditioning guys. I think these guys think we're like a tech company or something. And when shit really got serious is when like people started flying in from everywhere. And I would just pop into my lobby at 5, 6, 7 in the morning. And there was people in suits there. And I'm like, what do you guys want here?
Just showed up for
no reason. Just showed up.
Wow.
Bro. They would show up and there were people in the lobby and people were calling in all day long, bro. Oh, we're a broker and we're the, private equity and we're this and we're a bank and we're this and, we're interested and we want to see your books and we want to see this. And I'm like, these people would show up and they're like, yeah, Ishmael, we're from this firm and we're from this private equity and we're, we want to look at your business. And I'm like, look for what? And they're like, do you know how much it's worth? And I'm like, we're plumbers, bro. Like, literally, that was my answer to them. I'm like, you guys realize we're fucking doing plumbing here and air conditioning, right? Like, this isn't like no fancy tech company. And they're like, I don't think you realize how much it's worth. And I'm like, well, yeah, I would like to know that, right? And then I started educating myself again. Like, I don't know. So instead of like, getting these people, oh, get out of here, I'm not interested. I'm like, well, I started asking questions. Well, how do I figure it out? Have you ever done a quality of earnings issue? I'm like, quality of what? And they're like, no. I'm like, no. He's like, well, you need to do the quality of earnings. You need to get, do you have a CFO? And I'm like, no, I have a financial controller and, I have a pretty good in-house team. They're like, you would, for a transaction this big, you would want to hire a high level CFO. Yeah. And I'm like, how much is it going to cost? And they're like, really good one, 250, 300, maybe 400. And I'm like, what I've learned is that people that charge that much will impact the fucking bottom line and the top line the most. So when they told me about this CFO, I started educating myself and asking questions. And I'm like, you know what? I need to hire one of these dudes. So I hired one right away. I started interviewing them. I called a bunch of my buddies that were super smart people. And I'm like, hey, can you guys help me interview these smart people? Because I don't know what questions to ask these people. So we interview them. We pull the trigger on this guy named Mike. He's been a CFO his whole life. He worked at this company, X, Y, and Z, whatever. We bring him on board and he just starts cleaning up the financials, bro. And then we hire a company called CLA. And they come in and they're like, okay, well, we're here to audit you, make sure that you have a quality of earnings report so you can go out there and tell them what your EBITDA is. So we start structuring our deck, right? Our marketing deck, operational deck, our HR deck, our legal deck, and our financial deck. And we start structuring it and people start like flooding in, bro. this broker came in from SFMP and they're like, hey, like, you're about to step into a world where like there's a lot of sharks out there, and you might want to have somebody like us that have done this before come in and help you with this. Like, you're about to land a deal with like you're getting drafted to the MLB, and these people are going to try to take advantage of you, or they're going to try to, sneak in things that shouldn't go in there. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. I've never done this before. So I hired him. So I hired a broker called SFMP. We structured the financial deck, we structured everything, and then we put it out in the market. And they send out they send out a notice to, all these private equity and bankers, and they're like, NextGen air conditioning is up for grabs, and this is what their performance is at. And we had 161 or 162 offers within 24 hours.
That's wild, dude.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Are you guys high or what? And no, people started coming in, and they're like, okay, well, next step is they're going to start flying in. And I'm like, what do you guys need me to do? And they're like, just choose who you're going to feel comfortable working with, because this is literally like getting married. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So people start coming in, I start interviewing them, and I'm like trying to fuck around with them, because look, man, this is who I am every day. Like, I'm not like super smart. I'm not like trying to put a front for people. Like, these people would walk in, I'll start clowning on them, and I'm like, I'm trying to get a vibe from them. Because look, if we're gonna get into a relationship that is this deep and meaningful, like, I gotta be able to enjoy like what I'm doing, or else as soon as I stop enjoying it, I'm gone, bro. Like, I'll move on to something else. And yeah, all these private equity people started coming in and interviewing our people and seeing our operation. And, I started asking them questions. Who you guys with? What do you guys do? What are you guys going to do? What are you guys going to do for us? Like, what can you guys take? Like, my goal has always been to get to 100 million. Nobody had ever done it before, by the way. This is before pre-Tommy, pre-everybody. Like, we were one of the first $100 million companies to grow that fast. So I'm trying to tell them, like, hey, I'm trying to get to 250 now. And there's no way I'm going to get to 250 because I don't even know what that looks like. So if you guys can somehow come in here and help me, or tell me what you guys could do to get me to 250 profitably and, ethically, then I'm all ears. And some of these people had dope ass answers. Some of these people are, full of themselves. And, God gave me this sixth instinct to be able to read people properly. And this guy came in and just started talking baseball with me, bro. And his name's Ken Haynes. He's from Wrench Group. He just starts talking baseball, and my dad and his dad were pitchers, and we just start vibing off, and we start talking about the Braves and the Dodgers and the Angels and all this shit. And dude, it was like 2-3 hours into the conversation. It's like, oh shit, by the way, yeah, we want to buy your company. And I'm like, done, bro. Like, I could see myself doing this shit all day long. I'm like, As long as you guys don't come in here and fuck it up, then we're good. So yeah, he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I had a bunch of offers, and I'm like, you know what, bro? I'm going to take yours just because you're, it looks like you're a good dude and you mean well. And these people, they depend on us a lot. So,
yeah. And you rolled forward 40, 30?
What?
How much equity did you roll forward?
24 mil.
Okay. What would that be, a 24%?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I rolled about 20, a little bit of.
And that's probably pretty standard.
No, most people wanted me to roll 10.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the
caveats. Yeah.
That was one of the caveats that why I went with Wrench Group, because everybody wanted me to roll like 5-10 mil only. And they were going to give me a bigger lump sum up front. And I'm like, bro, this is a little $100 backpack. I'm chill, bro. I'm not like, I'm just trying to create an impact in our industry. And they were just like, no, most people roll 5-10 mil. They're like, most people that sold their company though were like 50, 60, 70 years old though. Mm-hmm. So I could understand why they would roll 5-10 mil, right? And I'm telling them like, no, I want to roll as much as I can because I already know what happens on the second roll, right? So I rolled 24 mil. I rolled 15 mil, and then they let me buy another 5 mil, like 30 days after. And then once I got my third earn out, they let me buy another, 4 mil in change or whatever. So yeah, now it's up to 24 mil on it. So we're just waiting for the whole portfolio to flip. And obviously, we buy the stock at $100 and they're trying to sell the stock at $300 to $500 on the next row. So hopefully we sell it in the next year or so. And, that 24 turns into.
What's the biggest thing you learned working with PE then? Because, some people have bad experiences, you've heard those. And then some people, I think like Tommy said publicly that he's learned a lot from the people who he ended up partnering with, and it's really helped him grow as an entrepreneur.
What I've learned that the private equity, this batch of private equity people are super high, good financial people. which look in a business and an operation, there's two people that need to be involved in the operation for you to create profit, which is the driver, which is the operator, CEO, CMO, whatever you want to call those guys, the operator. And then there's the back end person that's like, no, cut this, do that. And he helps you create the profit. Private equity is really fucking good at looking at numbers and finding pain points, but they really suck at fixing the pain points. That's where the operator comes in. And the most successful private equity people that are in our industry right now are humble enough to know that, hey, here's the pain points. Can you go help us? Instead of like, well, you don't know what you're doing. Let me put somebody else that knows what they're doing, right? So where you see these horror stories from is the private equities that think they know everything versus like the Tommies, which, you know, I think they're with Cortec. Their sponsor is Cortec. They let him drive that business. They give him tools to drive that business forward. That's why he's at 300 plus mil.
And you're not going to know how to operate it better than him.
Of course. So that's I think that's one of the biggest opportunities where you know, I've told this to everybody, is like private equity needs to learn to deal with operators and to work with them instead of coming in here and just because you're private equity or just because you got a fancy Harvard degree, you're gonna come and tell us what to do. Like, we're just as important as you guys too. So that's where they need to kind of figure things out.
And so for you, what was it like to get the big fat wire?
What was that cool, man. Like? It was cool, but look, the wire hit like on a Thursday, 8 a.m. kind of thing, 9 a.m. kind of thing. I was at work already. I continued my day. The next day I went to work. The next day I went to work. The next day I went to work. So it was cool. I've enjoyed some of it. Like, you know, I was making money from day one from Home Comfort to day one at NextGen. So it's not like, you know, when the wire came in, I'm like, I don't know what to do with it. Like we were making $5 to $8 million a year,
right?
A year pre-selling the company. Yeah, obviously getting a $80 million wire is different, right? But it was cool. Like to me, I never did it for that. As soon as it came in, I started giving it away though. Like I gave my fucking COO some, my CMO some. I gave my sister. I sent my money to Mexico. My ex-mother-in-law, I bought her a house. I bought her a car. You know, I gave my brother money. I started getting rid of it. Like to me, getting rid of the money was fucking dope. Not like making it is cool, but getting rid of it, that's where you're like, fuck yeah, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I live for. Yeah, I can't wait to cash Nuve out because as soon as it comes in, I'm just going to give it back out too.
Nice. So a lot of times when people exit though, there's like a trough because what has been like reinforcing them and giving them all the purpose is now gone. Now it's kind of a little bit different because you rolled over, but you know, the biggest piece of advice I've always heard from people who exit, who coach people on who are thinking about exit, is to know what you're going to do next.
Yes, bro.
So
that's what I'm scared of right now.
Did you not know what you were going to do next? Or?
No, I knew when I left NextGen, because I was in the midst of building my thermostat. Okay. And I knew the complexity of the thermostat was going to drive me nuts. So I knew I had a purpose to do it. It was like building this thermostat is like building an iPhone, right? Steve Jobs building the iPhone for the world is what I'm doing for the industry right now. So what I'm scared of right now, though, is that I know we're about to sell Nuve for a lot of money. And I don't know what to do next. And that's what I'm scared of. So I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to find, this is how psycho I am. I'm trying to find a bigger problem to get myself into, to be able to dig myself in there just to keep entertained, because I know that amount of money comes in, bro. There's problems that come with it. There's what is that thing called when you're like, when you're temptations. Yeah, there's temptations that come in. You know, the devil tries to come into your life and all that, and like that's what I'm scared of. I'm trying to time it properly where I exit Nuve, I hire a CEO, the money comes in, but then I already have a bigger problem to solve in our industry, right? I'm a contractor at heart. I'm gonna pour the rest of my life into contracting. So I'm trying to figure out what other things we need to fix in the contracting world that's gonna drive me nuts to be able to be in there daily, because otherwise if I get bored or if it's too simple, then I'm just gonna fucking wander off and fucking be, you know, probably doing dumb shit.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas?
No, bro. No. It has to do with AI though, because that's the one world that nobody's figured out in our industry. Yeah. Like we figured out, you know, we know how to make profit on the contracting side and the operational side. We know how to make profit on the SaaS side and on the hardware side. Like there's successful businesses like ServiceTitan that came into our industries worth $10 billion now. Oh, yeah. Like there's successful SaaS companies in our industry. There's successful contractors in our industry. The one thing that we're missing is how do we integrate the AI world into our contracting world, where all contractors benefit and our EBITDA skyrockets. What me and Juju were just talking about it. The next contractor or whoever figures out the autonomous model in the contracting world, right, is going to be a fucking trillionaire. It's going to be the next NVIDIA. It's going to be the next Tesla. It's going to be the next that guy. Because right now we've been running based on labor, based on, hey, we hire, we increase price. We hire, we increase price. We hire, we increase price. And like we need CSRs, dispatcher. We need all these people to do everything inside the operation. But nobody's had the balls enough to be able to like, okay, let me grow a $100 million company with 4 or 5 people in house. 4 or 5 people in house, no CSRs, no dispatching, no production, no accounting, nothing inside, just technicians and installers inside the home. Whoever figures out that model right there, bruh.
Yeah, well, that's a big leap though. Where I would think, and granted, I'm talking up my ass because I don't know, is I would think that the dispatching function could be, maybe it already is heavily AI enabled.
Look, the SaaS
because it's kind of like a puzzle.
Yes.
Knowing certain people's strengths, what's the age of the unit, who's the type of customer, what's the history of the customer,
what technician
who's going to be the right person based on experience and personality to go with that person.
Exactly that.
And that feels like something that could be augmented with AI quite well.
It's exactly that. But because we have so many people inside the operation, so many humans inside the operation, our EBITDA is 10 to 20% if we're lucky.
Right.
Like there's rare Tommies out in the industry. The vast majority of these people are running under 10%, single digit EBITDAs. Right? Nobody's ever figured out the autonomous model, that what I call the Tesla model in our industry, that are going to be netting 40, 50, 60, 70% because it's just technicians and installers inside the home. From the time the ad is driven to the time it's dispatched to the consumer, it's converted into a call, it's dispatched to a technician. Like all that needs to be automated to where the first point of contact, human to human contact, is the technician. Right now, like it's all fucked up, bro. Like we've been doing the same thing that the Ken Goodridge's, the 30, 40, 50-year-old operations have been doing. Nothing has changed. And this is what pisses me off about our industry. And this is why I came up with my thermostat. And this is why I'm trying to challenge all these people. It's somebody needs to question that shit. Somebody needs to go in there and start taking the risk and saying, hey, how do we get rid of all these Dude, I had 82 CSRs just answering phones all day, inbound and outbound. Mm-hmm. How do we get rid of all those people? We had a team of like 12 in accounting, AP, AR, controlling, collections, CFO, an assistant to this. Like we had a whole structure on, like, how do we get rid of that? And we just put a live P&L where revenue gets attributed to every chart of accounts. And every day we know exactly to the penny. When somebody sells something, it triggers the gross profit, the net profit. We just see everything live, bro. How do we get to that model? Because once we get to that model, it's going to be biblical.
If you're a business owner who has appointment setters or an outbound sales team, you're going to want to hear what I have to say for a second. So a multiple 8-figure business owner texted me the other day, and when he started using Dollar.io for the first time, his pickup rates went from 9% to 20%. So imagine doubling your pickup rates and ultimately the throughput of what your outbound salespeople and setters are going to get. How does that impact your business? The answer is a lot. So if you want to check out Dollar.io for a phone sales outbound system, just click the link in the description or just go to Dollar.io. Now back to the podcast.
So we'll talk about Nuve real fast, then we'll wrap. So explain, because we haven't talked about it yet, the thermostat, Nuve. What's the basic value proposition for that?
I saw the alarm company. I saw the alarm panel at my house, and there was something wrong with my sensor. And on the alarm panel, it says ADT. So I clicked the ADT logo, and it gives me a 1-800 number to call so they could fix my alarm. Well, if I covered up that ADT logo, and something goes with my alarm, what am I going to do? You're going to grab your phone and you're going to look for an alarm provider to come and fix your alarm. Well, that's where we're at in the HVAC world. Right now, there's Ecobee, Nest, and Honeywell. There's no provider inside that thermostat. So if something goes wrong, what do? You grab your phone, you look for a provider, you go on Google, look at reviews, you go on Yelp, look at reviews, you go on social media, for a provider instead of like, who's been servicing this unit for the longest? New homeowner walks in, let's say I'm a contractor and I've been servicing this unit for 5 years. They sell that house, new homeowner comes in, what's the first thing they're gonna do? Call another contractor. Now you lost that customer that you've been harvesting for 5 years. So what I'm trying to solve with my thermostat is we always give the contractor, the original provider, whoever installed the unit, whoever has been fixing it, we put their logo and their contact information on the thermostat. And not on the thermostat only, on the app that controls the thermostat. So they never know it's a Nuvve thermostat. It's Service Champions. It's NextGen. They have their own app. They have their own thermostat on it. So every time the customer needs you, they're at their fingertips. That's all we're trying to solve, which in return, if you can install more of our devices inside the home, you're going to be able to retain most of these clients. And if you could retain clients, your marketing spend will go down. Dude, most of these contractors, bro, are retaining less than 8% of consumers.
That's wild.
8%. That means 92% of your customers go to somebody else because they forgot who you are. They can't find an invoice. They don't know where an email. They forgot your name, right? They're not gonna go in the attic and look at your stupid sticker that you've been putting for 10 years. And that's the problem we're trying to solve with Nuvve, is we're trying to give the contractor back the power instead of, keep investing $1.3 million a month on Google.
So what's been the hardest part transitioning from the trades to really this is a software hardware company?
The software hardware world is a lot to do with trust. Like, I got to trust my CTO. I got to trust my CRO. I got to trust my CMO. I got to trust all these people to drive the business. In the contracting world, I could fucking go in and solve it. I could go in and take care of that goddamn customer. Yeah. I could go in, if we flooded a customer's house, I'll send the drywallers. I'll do everything, right? I have control of the operation. In the SaaS world, in the hardware world, bro, you have zero control. Like, you want to roll out features, you want to roll out new product, you want to roll out this. It's like, this takes time.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you a perfect example. We rolled out our version 1, right? Our version 1 thermostat's an ugly ass thermostat. We sold $15.2 million our first year of thermostats, bro. $15.2 million of the most hideous thermostat. It was a beta thermostat. I just wanted to put it out there to see if people even wanted it. A year and a half later, I'm about to roll my second version. I just rolled it out last week. Like, that's how long it took. I've been working for a year and a half on version 2. And it's like, you want to change this, you want to do this, you want this, the screen, this, the blah, blah. It's like, bro, you don't just fucking walk in. It's like, oh, here it is. 30 days later, we're launching it. No, bro. You got to feed software into it. You got to the hardware's got to communicate with the servers and the software. It's like, it takes fucking time, bro. So I think that what the SaaS world, hardware world's teaching me is a lot more patience than the contracting world.
One of the biggest correlations, because obviously software is like a bigger opportunity for a lot of people.
100%.
Because really what happens with software is there's only, like at home service is very fragmented.
Yep.
Software is an industry where usually only 1 to 3 providers will capture the entire market, right? And so really to kind of like, to win there, you either have to create a new market or you create like a subcategory in a lot of ways. And so one of the biggest correlations I found with those bigger opportunity vehicles, as they call them, is they can't be solo founders unless you're like, I mean, there's Elon Musk and, all these people, but generally it's very hard. Like for me, if I'm going to start a software company, we were talking about this earlier, I'm going to do the distribution side, but I'm not going to learn the CTO skill set in 2 years. Even if I spent 2 years trying to learn it, I'm not going to learn it.
No,
right?
You're not supposed to, by the way.
Yeah. Even in big hedge funds, like there's usually a minimum 3 partners in the fund, and they have different, like there's a raising capital guy. There's the guy who's like the nerd who knows all the algorithms and all that stuff. Yeah. Then there's another guy who's like literally just fund operations, and so that's something I found. I think a good place to end off is I've heard you say that your goal is not just generational wealth, but generational peace.
Yes, sir.
What do you mean by that?
I want the rest of my bloodline to never have to worry about money again. I want them to not worry about if they're going to, where they're going to be at tomorrow, if they're going to have food on the table, if they're going to have a home to go to. My whole life I've been struggling to see the people that I love in my whole life just be poor. Right, my uncles, my cousins, my brother, us, like we've been just dirt poor our whole life. And to me, being poor is probably one of the harshest feelings that I had to deal with my whole life, and something that I've just been working, diligently to be able to change into my daughter's life, into my, their daughters and their kids and the close family. So. Just giving people the piece of that I didn't have. All the shit that I had to go through and all the mayhem that I had to go through, obviously, requires a lot of hecticness. And what I want the next generation and my daughters and my nephews and everybody that's close to me, I just want them to have peace, man. Like I want them to do whatever they want, whenever they want. they don't have to answer to an asshole like me, or they don't have to answer to anybody. You know, if they want to be in Monaco tomorrow and they just want to be there for a year, cool, go over there. If they want to go to Mexico and live there for the rest of their life, go over there. Like I want them to really enjoy life. So I'm sacrificing myself, and I'm sacrificing time and energy, and just, you know, nobody enjoys this, bro. Nobody enjoys building businesses and fucking going through hardships and firing people and hiring people and all the curveballs that get thrown at you. You got to be a little bit psychopathic you got to be a psychopath to be able to enjoy this. So I don't want none of my loved ones to go through this. So that's why I'm doing it.
Ishmael, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, bro.
That's the pod. Hey, if you enjoyed this podcast and you want to check out another one of my podcasts, you'll probably like this one right here.